They came from the Cyclops' cave. We start with an old man in a tattered cloak running desperately through the swamp. A castle in the distance illuminated by streaks of lightning, thunder rolling. He starts at the lightning, ducks inside. As he reaches the bailey, he cranks the drawbridge up and drops the portcullis, panting as he falls backwards and calls out to anyone to help him. Nobody answers. But then there's another flash of lightning and a svelte figure in a black robe, one eye fixed in place as the other swivels wildly, is standing before them. Afraid of a little lightning, Duke McMorrow? Don't worry, I have a far more interesting fate for you than an electric shock. Another lightning strike, and a chasm starts opening in the castle bailey, sending Duke McMorrow sprawling and falling, gripping the side as the man in black steps up to him and brings his boot down on the Duke's fingers. The Duke falls into limitless darkness. This is Chronicles of the Abyss. Sometime later, our heroes, Gustav, the Wall, Ramonas, the Right Hand, and Miles, the Hard Way, are on the Sea Swallow, sailing to the city-state of Muso. The Sea Swallow is a fine vessel painted red and green with a beautiful maiden on her mast. How many days have the sailors spent when they should have been picking off barnacles and making sure the sheets are clean, just staring up at that woman, wondering if they might meet a lady like her when they get into port. But no, that isn't what they're thinking today, because they are nearly in Muso, the Swamp City. The Sea Swallow is captained by one Stamping Jack Lorx, a tiny being on a floating tray. As the Sea Swallow reaches the marshy port of Muso, Lorx cries out, "Land ho!" But before we hit dock, maybe we should introduce our characters. Who are they, and why are they here? Let's start with Gustav.
The large man before you has the build of a warrior. A blonde stubble, shaved head with both face and the exposed areas of his skin featuring a number of battle scars. Battle scars that he wears proudly. In his hands, a massive axe, large enough to fell the mightiest tree or the most powerful of beasts. Yes, my name is Gustav, known as the Wall by some, and I have come to this place in search of a cause to die for. My prayers are addressed to Ares, the god of war, and I have endeavored to please him and his lust for carnage over the years. But I will not throw away my life over just any battle. No, it must be a noble cause, a just cause. And I have dreamt that such a cause is waiting for me when we arrive in this city. So that is Gustav.
Your dreams may well come true, Gustav, but not in the way that you are hoping. And at your side is Ramonas, the Right Hand. Tell us, Craig, who is Ramonas?
I am a striking woman in my late 20s, dressed in fine silks and robes, purple and blue. My hair blonde, perfectly cut, falling to the shoulders, just so, totally historically accurate hairstyle, of course. My gaze looks out across the sea with interest, and I lift myself up a little in a rather strange contraption I sit in. Sadly, early in life, I suffered some injuries in my studies. Yes, I am a sage, studying all manner of interesting wildlife and mythical beast. It is a passion of mine. One day I hope to catalogue every single mythological creature that exists in the world, so that we can better understand the world. After all, so often do we attempt to destroy it, when we could simply work together and understand the natural equilibrium. But yes, due to some injuries I suffered, sadly I am unable to walk, but that is fine, for I have a miraculous device, part my own invention, and part, of course, a blessing from Hephaestus himself. A strange mechanical device with 4 bipedal legs like a spider that allows me to move almost as deftly as I once was able to. It is actually quite helpful with my research, this contraption, and I am thankful to the gods, all the gods, for I worship them all equally. After all, they are all important in their own way. And so I look across the ocean, the wind blowing through my hair, intrigued as to what awaits on the horizon.
What indeed, but hanging slightly back, maybe lacking the sea legs of the other 2 of you, not just content to stand at the balustrade and be so close to the water, is Miles, otherwise known as the Hard Way. Who is Miles, and why is he here?
Miles is a dark, brooding presence aboard the ship and has been for some days. A glowering beast of a man who intimidates the sailors. Or would, if not for the fact that being not strictly a man, but a satyr, his sea hooves haven't quite come together yet. He's leaning on the railing of the ship, his hands wrapped in the leather straps used by boxers and brawlers and other low types of fighter, watching as port rolls in. His face is expressionless, maybe a little dour, but in his head he's giving thanks for the presence of land and the rapid return to it. Miles slightly regrets his choice to board this ship, but in Muso he expects to find his greatest opponent yet. Or at least his largest.
That he might, and that opponent is not tiny stamping Jack Lawks, who floats up beside you on his dish, and frowning. There's some kind of affinity between the 2 of you, both of you being what may be regarded as inhuman. What Lawks is precisely is a question for debate, and no one would debate in Stamping Jack's presence, but nevertheless, he has spent more time with you than with the other passengers, and wrinkling his nose and his heavy brow, he says, "Something's amiss out to port."
How can you tell?
"Look yonder at the water and the boats about the place. Where are the fisher folk? Where are the dock hands? Where be the signs of life?
Mayhap 'tis a day of celebration."
Possible. There are 2 temples in Muso that I know. One to Ares, another to Apollo, and those followers of Apollo do like to drink heavily from the cup. Well, as do the followers of Ares after they've had a good kill on their blade. He shrieks out, "We are coming ashore! Stand ready!" But to your disappointment and concern, no one rushes toward the ship with ropes at the ready. No dock hands stand braced to welcome the sea swallow. And so, while the ship blows a beach and sailors scale down the side to moor it, this is by no means the way you would hope to reach landfall. Jack Lawks folds his arms. "I am not a superstitious captain," and he looks at the 3 of you, "and I have dealt with many a maritime beast, from glowing people to were-lobsters and many in between. But it is things like this," and he jerks his head at Muso, "that disturb me. I am more at home on the water than I am on land, it is true, and I will not be going ashore while this place looks more akin to a ghost town than a lived-in city. Sailors, back aboard! We wait here until these 3... and he seems to chew over the word for a little while. Heroes investigate and find out what is amiss. Maybe they can reassure us." He stares at Miles again. We will wait here until nightfall. If you have not returned, we will be pushing ourselves back out to water.
By then you will find the city not only explored, but revived. We guarantee it.
Well, we can hope. We have stock to sell, and sailors who want a drink. The gangplank is lowered. He gestures for the three of you to leave.
Well, Gustav, lead on.
I grunt and I nod and I begin moving towards the gangplank to get off the ship. This is going to be fun, I think to myself.
I begin to make my way down the gangplank, my mechanical legs clicking as they do so. And when we're a little bit out of earshot, I look to Miles and raise an eyebrow. I say, traveller, not a single word on the journey, and yet as soon as we arrive, you promise liberation of a city. Quite impressive. Are you able to deliver?
I'm a man of my word, Romanus. And always have been, and always shall be.
Well, if the sun and the moon bless us, then I am sure all will be well. Although, what could have befallen this place? It is possible. It is something far more mundane. Perhaps plague, war, famine. So many to choose from.
And yet I find I hope not. Plague and famine are hard to fight. Beasts with teeth and claws are a more satisfying foe.
And yet not all beasts need be fought, and some beasts walk on two legs and do not appear to be beasts at all, and I look to Gustav.
And I weigh my heavy axe in my hands and I grin towards you, as though I'm very much looking forward to the kills that will be coming up.
As you proceed through the docks, sure enough, you find no signs of life. At first glance, it appears this entire wharf area has been abandoned at speed. Hurriedly. Boxes have been scattered, stock has been dropped. There are fish that are no longer flapping, mind you, that are laying as if a trawler had brought home a catch and all of a sudden the fisher folk had to drop their basket and flee. You've seen signs like this before. All of you have been in a location that's been attacked by raiders, pirates, and other such ne'er-do-wells. And of course, the average civilian, peasant, or otherwise, tends to turn tail and run. It's a rare docker who wants to stand and fight over his small vessel. But it is still unsettling, because what is unusual is the lack of any blood. Typically, when someone decides to raid a city, there's at least a few cursory slashes of a saber to show you mean business. But here there's no bodies, just a scattering of life that was. Do you want to investigate this area or head deeper into the city?
Less an investigation, more of a long panning shot across the set. Are there any animals? Or did the budget not stretch to them anyway?
The budget didn't stretch to animals, unfortunately, and a long panning shot, while a wonderful idea that the director added to the script, unfortunately comes limited with the painted background. So it appears to be a long panning shot until you start scratching the surface and realise this is a small set with very nice painting in the background. But nevertheless, it is utterly abandoned of life, but for the three actors, the only people being paid for this day of work. And even then, not much.
Methinks we shall find nothing of use here. We should head deeper into the city, perhaps to one of the temples. Surely the gods will have some answers for us there.
I nod approvingly. Eris will know.
As you move deeper into the city, you start noticing more that's amiss. Not only are there still no people to be found, and now this is an exterior shot, so the film transitions from, onto film, and the quality visibly degrades. but you can identify swiftly cracks in the ground and in the buildings, the cobbled streets. Flooding is common. This is known as the Swamp City. The entire city-state of Muso is at or below sea level, so no doubt this is a frequent peril. But this is the first time you've heard of an earthquake striking the place. It's not impossible, but it's quite possible there is some kind of enchantment at play here. Nevertheless, still no one. As you call out to find out if there are any survivors, you hear no response. Could I ask from our sage, Ramonas, a survival and intellect roll, please?
1 success.
1 success is all you need in this case, because as you're poking around here, you find some crabs on the ground. Now, that's again not so unusual, you're very close to port, but these particular crabs rarely leave the water. You know these as stone crabs. They tend to look exactly as their name implies, as stones, tending to be underneath the water's surface, and they will occasionally reach out, grab a fish or some kelp or whatever it is crabs happen to eat on any given day, and draw it back in under the shell. Here, they are pretty far into the city, as if the water level rose suddenly, perhaps, and brought with it some of the maritime life.
I lower my legs with a sharp click and reach out to let one of these crabs crawl into my hand. I pick it up. Why, hello there, little friend. Far from home, aren't we? Look here, Gustav. This little one shouldn't be here, unless, of course, there was some sort of natural tidal wave or sudden flood.
I look at it and I furrow my brow, and it is unnatural. And I growl a little.
Oh, Gustav, no need to growl. It is not our foe, are you? They will look over the crab, fascinated, and put it down for a few seconds and take out a piece of ancient parchment and begin trying to crudely sketch this crab.
Like a voyager on the Beagle, you try and make your notes and illustrate as best you can with pieces of charcoal the crab, which quite happily poses for you, having been replaced by a prop at this point in the movie. But sound effects imply that it is clicking and chittering happily at your brief moment of portraiture.
And again, while I'm doing this, I'm silent and I just look to Miles and say, "Can you hear anything? On the wind? Anything at all?"
Nothing but the ominous sound of silence.
An ill omen.
Miles and Gustav, as Ramonas troubles herself with illustrating a crab, you explore the city further. Gustav, naturally you are drawn to the Temple of Ares, for he is your patron. And Miles, heading the opposite direction from what once was a market square, you approach the radiant and, frankly, opulent to the point of nauseating Temple of Apollo. While you cannot share this information, Gustav and Miles, the temples are a study in contrasts. The Temple of Ares bears severe cracks and damage, as if it were all but at the epicenter of this quake that you assume has taken place. Whereas the Temple of Apollo is pristine, the doors still sealed, the golden spires on its roof still perfectly intact. Gustav, what are you doing as you look at the wreck of what was once, no doubt, a holy place?
I somewhat despair. It's not supposed to be like this. This is an important temple to the greatest of the gods. Has been defiled in this way by this... I cannot imagine that it is a natural occurrence. There must be something else behind it. I try to look around to see if I can figure out what it is that's caused it, and I keep my axe at the ready. Perhaps whatever has done this, perhaps a great beast, is still hiding here. Perhaps having noticed that I have come and now is hiding.
Could I ask for a survival and cunning roll from you, please?
Survival and cunning 1 + 2, that's 3 dice. No successes.
No successes, so it takes you by surprise. We get an additional rewrite, however. It takes you by surprise when a hand grabs your ankle from beneath the rubble of the temple. It's a tight grip.
And as a reflex, I immediately move to chop the hand off.
Excellent. Let's go for close combat and might.
Close combat 3, might 3, 6 dice.
This hand doesn't stand a chance.
It does not. That is 2 10s and a 9, so that is 5 successes.
Yeah, that wrist. You bring your axe down and like a hot blade through butter, you cleave it off, bettering the skill of any surgeon. If this hand were infected, why, you would have pried it from a body and perhaps saved someone's life. But as it is, you instead have severed the hand of a survivor who was reaching out for help. Such is the way when someone grabs an ankle by surprise and does not announce their presence first. This is a thing you're taught in the academy. But clearly this person was not an apt student. You hear a scream of pain from beneath the stones as the hand flies off, slapping its way down the cobblestone street. And blood oozes in technicolor beauty from the remains of the wrist.
And I belch out a mighty war cry, and I flex my muscles in this temple to Ares, and I feel powerful. And then I notice what I've done.
It isn't impossible, indeed it's not even rare, that sometimes the adrenaline, or rather the excitement of battle, ripples through you and forces you to do things on the battlefield that some may not consider terribly heroic. And this may be one of those things, something to speak to a priest or seer about another time when you can afford to. But now is not that time. Now there is someone screaming, moaning in pain, buried beneath this stonework. And you are a strong champion. It may well be that you can extract them before they bleed to death as a result of the wound you just dealt them.
Indeed. And I move this stonework aside to try to see who it is, see if they can be saved still.
Let's go for an athletics and might roll.
That is, again, 5 successes.
Wow, like Samson, you find your inner strength and you move those heavy stones as if they were made purely of foam painted grey, because after all that is probably what they are. So you lift them and the polystyrene blocks go flying. And beneath that wreckage you see the mutilated, because of your actions, body of an Amazonian warrioress. She is pinned. Her legs are underneath one of these grand Greek-esque pillars, but her body is free, and now that her torso and arms can move, she finds herself clutching her severed wrist. The look on her face, one of pure agony and shock. She is pale. At one point, no doubt, this woman could have swung a sword with the best of them, but at this time, you have severely hampered those chances.
Are you all right, my lady?
No! She screams out. My hand! I don't know what happened to my hand. I heard the footsteps and I thought someone may be coming to rescue, and I reached out and... Was it a beast? Did a beast take my hand?
Nay, it was me. I am here to rescue you.
You're here to rescue me?
Did you see who destroyed the temple?
She passes out. Maybe out of indignation, quite frankly.
I grunt. Maybe the sage can fix her up later. I don't know anything about first aid. And I begin trying to lift her up. I'm going to carry her with me.
Okay, as we know in first aid courses, the best thing to do with someone who's just been buried under rubble is to bend their body and throw it over your shoulder. So let's go for medicine and intellect.
No successes.
Well, that's 5 rewrites in the pool now. Giving a satisfying crack, you bend her over your shoulders into a fireman's carry and take her back toward the market square. She makes no sound. At the Temple of Apollo, on the other side of the city, Miles, the Hardway, the satyr,
is sneering at the ornate, overly decorated doors of the God of Prophecy. He spits and he declares, "Didn't see this coming, did you?" And then sets about kind of walking around the outside of the temple, looking for a way in, occasionally punching like doors or shuttered windows, yelling, "Come out, you huddling cowards! Rescue is here!"
Your instincts are correct, Miles. As while the temple is for the most part an open building, you can ascend its exterior steps past the pillars. There is an interior to it, where the holy objects, the valuables, and often the priests tend to sleep, and that building is, as mentioned before, utterly sealed off. As you hammer on the shutters on the door and you shout your command, one of the shutters opens up. "Go away!" And it closes again.
"You don't want to be rescued?"
It opens a fraction. "We're safe in here! You're the one in danger!" Closes again.
"There's nothing out here."
Opens again. "That's the problem! There's nothing, there's no one. This is the only place that's safe. Clear off, there's no room for you." The shutter closes, and you hear a latch fall into place.
"I am not dealing with these squishy pink cowards. This sounds like a problem for Ramonas to talk us out of. I'm going back to her."
Just as you arrive back in the market square, let's find out from a culture and dexterity roll what kind of artist Ramonas is.
3 successes.
Okay, the 2 of you arrive, one of you with an Amazon in tow, and you are impressed to see the fine work Ramonas has done rendering this stone crab in charcoal. It looks better on the page than it does in real life.
I look over the parchment and begin rolling it away and putting it in a little container that I have inside my legs that has many other parchments. I nod and smile and say, "Well, at least this journey will not be a waste." Goodness me, what is that you have there, Gustav? Is that a person?
I saved her.
You saved her? Well, goodness me, is she all right? And I shall quickly move over to assess this poor woman's condition. It seems like she's missing a hand.
I put her down so that you can assess her wounds.
Well, it doesn't take a physician to realise she's pretty far from all right. Nevertheless, if you make a medicine and intellect roll, we'll see how bad the damage truly is. Ramonas, use your healing gifts.
No successes.
What a stirring movie, 6 rewrites in. Not only have we seen a duke fall down a crevasse in the prologue, the first character we meet ashore has sadly died upon being rescued before she could give you any kind of valuable information. Was it the wound to her hand? Or should I say, the removal of her hand? Was it the rough yanking of her from underneath a marble pillar? Or just throwing her violently over your shoulders like some war trophy? You don't know. She's not alive to answer.
But wait, surely, as I see the essence of life fade from her very body, I look to the camera, such emotion in my eyes. No, this cannot be. If I cannot save her, then surely the gods! Can I attempt to activate spiritual healing for 2 rewrites?
You can indeed. This is exactly the kind of thing you should be using cinematics for. And so you drop down to 4 rewrites, but as you do, you open a portal to an unknown realm, and otherworldly beings invade the surrounding area. These beings are not demons. They are not here to drag you down to the underworld. Quite the contrary. These are divine agents of the gods who want for nothing more than the people to be healed. Their energies infuse you, healing the woman as she approaches death's door from one side or the other.
My hands go up into the air, the wind machine blowing through my hair as I yell, "By the sun and the moon, this brave soul! Bring her back! Bring her back, I say! We beg you!"
There is another satisfying crack as her back straightens out, and her legs, her big toe twitches through her sandal. Her hand sadly does not regrow, but her eyes spring open. She's alive. "By the gods," she says.
"I pray Hades will forgive us this day, my friend, but I could not bear to see such a powerful woman leave this world so soon."
He's not known to be the most forgiving of gods, but that's what prayers are for. She locks eyes with you. "Thank you. Thank you. I could see my doom approaching." And then she looks at Gustav. "It was him! He was my doom! I saw him approaching, and then he broke my back."
I quickly remove a handkerchief from my person and begin dabbing her forehead. "My dear, you are hallucinating, seeing tricks perhaps from demons. This is Gustav, a good warrior, I believe. We don't really know each other that well."
I look at them both a little bit sheepishly.
An earthquake broke the city apart, and creatures of darkness emerged from them, from the cracks in the ground. They dragged Muso's people into the depths of the abyss. I fought alongside others to prevent this, and I fought shoulder to shoulder with Duke McMorrow at my side, but was forced to retreat into the temple, where I was knocked unconscious as the building was torn down by these creatures.
I look grimly towards Miles as they return.
Good news. There are several survivors in the Temple of Apollo, but they are too weak-willed and gutless to come out.
Miles, have some empathy. Even if they are weak, all us humans truly are, we must appeal to their better nature. We must rile them up. Come, Gustav, we must gather the people and confront this evil in the abyss. Pray tell, what is your name? I am Ramonas.
I am Christabel.
Brave Christabel, do you think you'll be able to lead us to where this beast or foe is?
I've been unconscious for I don't know how many hours, but I can take you to the Temple of Apollo, and then I should probably see to getting my bleeding wrist stump maybe tended to with herbs and poultice rather than leading you into the swamps.
Well, perhaps that is for the best. But Gustav, I will rely on you to rally the people.
Rally them I shall, I say, and I flex my muscles.
That's an effective way of rallying them. Are you all descending on the Temple of Apollo then? You get another "Go away, clear off, we're safe in here. Don't know who you are, don't care.
Do you know what happened?
We've got a good idea.
Beyond there was an earthquake?
Beings of Hades! It was the underworld. The underworld opened up to reclaim the souls, the living. Woe, woe, and thrice woe.
Yes, and several additional woes for luck. Who commanded them?
You hear a voice cry out from behind one of the pairs of shutters. There was a man, he stood apart from the living dead, the living shadows. A man in black, a black cloak. He had one eye that stared fixed ahead, while the other swiveled like a ball too small for its socket. He commanded them. The left hand of Hades.
A fell name, Miles, and yet how strange. Hades is the keeper of the dead. one who would bring the dead forth in his name. Nay, there is something amiss here, I feel. But come, Gustav, and I go and attempt to lightly touch one of your muscular shoulders. You must rally them. They are afraid. They are weak. Show them that the might of men has not yet fallen.
I grunt and I hold up my axe high into the sky, and I look them all in the eye. I stare at them, and then I just say with a crazed look, "Follow me into glorious death!" And then I begin moving off.
It's a good use of a quip. Maybe not the most appropriate use, but it's a good use, and that's the point. Could you make a command, and let's go for a presence roll, please. Command and presence. Yeah, your character is very commanding.
He is. That is 4 successes.
It's super effective. The doors fly open. This man, he must be Apollo! Apollo, come to save us! In rippling muscular glory! Huzzah! Huzzah! 'Tis Apollo! Their high priest says, No, he is a false god! This is not Apollo! This is some wandering champion! Do not trust him! Trust in me! Garland, stay with me! Keep me safe! Keep the temple safe! We are safe here! Do not go with that! You're fools! Fools all! As the mob rushes you, Gustav. What would you have us do, my lord? The sun god! Peasants are stupid.
And I look to Ramonis.
People, we must all venture to the swamps and defeat this great foe, for alone we are weak, but together we are strong. And I give Miles a dramatic camera look, because of course that line was being delivered to him as well as the people.
The swamp? On your bike? There's a lot of folding of arms and pouting from the peasants, who clearly don't respond to you quite as well as they do to Gustav.
To the swamps! I say.
The swamps! The swamps! We will go to the swamp!
And the sun gleams in my axe. My axe makes it like it shines in the sunlight, and I begin moving off again.
There's some questioning from the peasants. Why are we going to the swamps? Apollo told us to go to the swamps, but the swamps are known to be dangerous and riddled with monsters. Still, the swamps! It can't be any worse than here.
I quietly aside to Miles say, Together we are stronger, but I didn't necessarily say that we are smarter.
You know I'm not carrying the bodies home, don't you?
No. I wouldn't expect you to do that, Miles. But thank you for, if not believing in them, believing in me.
To the swamps.
The high priest is running down the steps. He's trying to grab for people as they pass in that kind of a way that holy people do as they get ignored. He's grabbing at their clothing. He's saying, No, turn, come to me, come to sanctuary. The temple kept you safe. Why are you following this newly arrived chieftain? What's wrong with you? I've protected you for the last day, and all of a sudden a man comes, flexes his muscles. Damn you all then! Go to the swamp with you. I'll stay here, eat my ambrosia, and fine, bugger off. If you happen to go to Castle Thrax on the outskirts, give my regards to Duke McMorrow. And he slams the doors of the temple.
I shake my head and begin following the great crowd of people. They will be needed. They will be needed.
Sadly, not in a way that they would hope. As you pass into the swamps surrounding Muso, again the thought does cross all of your minds, why are we going here? In which direction are we truly heading? There is a bloodlust to Gustav, though, as he leads this party. And it infects the rest of you. I mean, Miles is never far away from it himself. And for Ramonis, there's an academic interest to all of this. But Really, it's the possibility of adventure, of slaying of a great beast, doing battle with a true rival. That's what a swamp like this promises. The peasants around you, less peasants, more the city's aristocrats who were admitted into the Temple of Apollo, clutched tightly to Gustav, but they appear scared to be present here. As she didn't want to remain alone with Garland of Apollo, you still have Christabel with you, though her open wound is unlikely to do well in a swamp of all places, not known for their curative or restorative atmospheres. Nevertheless, she covers it up with a sheet of cloth, and hopefully that will do the job. I have been speaking to some of these aristocrats. She has got to know your names. Ramonas. They explained that some of the creatures of darkness, when they emerged from the abyss and started chasing down the people of Muso, that they chased them out here into the swamp. So we may stumble upon monsters, beasts, that we are not prepared to face.
Well, with your knowledge, we are more prepared than we were earlier, are we not? Besides, Gustav and Miles are mighty warriors. I think. They seem to at least think they are, and I laugh.
She nervously laughs in turn. I feel like we are the game on a game trail, Ramonas.
Nonsense, my dear. Trust me, I have been hunted several times, and this is nothing. Besides, we must right this wrong, this so-called priest of Hades. If we allow them to do as they will, then where will fall next? First Muso, maybe then Hardo, maybe the world. And what will the gods think of us then? That we just stood and let nothing happen? No, we must be the elegant solution for an ugly problem.
By the gods, you are right, Ramonas. I never thought I would listen so closely to a sage. I have always followed the warrior's path, and I have been afeared that I would not be able to wield a sword so well without a right hand, but you have made me... You've given me confidence again. I will fight alongside you wherever our path takes, and if it just so happens that I am slightly less adept with my left, I am sure that I will train myself to become an even greater warrior than I was before.
And I nod, once again, the wind blowing through my hair, even though there probably isn't any wind in this swamp at present. And I say, indeed, whatever occurs next, the gods will be with us. And if it is our fate to die, then, well, that is our fate. But we will meet it head-on, bravely, proudly, wisely.
Gustav, the clamouring crowd of aristocrats who walk into the swamp alongside you are irritating, like the mosquitoes that also happen to be present here. Actually, small scratches on the film stock, but it looks vaguely like mosquitoes that you swat away routinely, along with aristocrats. And as Ramonas, you are speaking with Christabel, that leaves Miles. Miles, could I ask for a cunning and survival roll again, please? Survival is clearly our skill of the day.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Very impressive. You're the first to hear, above the sounds of the usual swamp wildlife, the small sound of chittering laughter. Come on down, come on down. Not far from where you are now.
There's a brief moment of excitement at the first sound. He cracks his knuckles like he might have finally found something worthy of a fight. And then he hears the voice and visibly sags. Something over yonder! And I set off to go and see who's making the noise.
Are you doing so with stealth, or are you intending on wading in?
Oh, just wading right on in.
You slosh through the sludge of the swamp, not worried that your goat's legs are knee-deep in this slurry of the swamp.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played the scenario Chronicles of the Abyss, for they came from the Cyclops' cave. We were again joined by our dear friends Matthew Dawkins and Kat Evans for this series. The music was made by Ager Sonus and Halgrath, and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We'd like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Ludwig Manford, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Ryan F., Xabier, and Daniel for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and see you soon again.